Okay, I have the guest of honor up here. We're also happy to see Paul here tonight. And I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you for coming. And we all know we're here to honor Paul on the special occasion of his retirement after 46 years as the town clerk. And we're going to open the evening's ceremonies by saluting the flag, and Paul will lead us. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So for those of you that have seats, please sit down. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Paul's daughter, Kathy, and her husband, Kevin. And Paul's son, Bruce, and his wife, Lisa, and Paul's other son, Dennis, and his friend, Debbie, who will help us honor Paul tonight. So I just have a few words to say, and if some of the, I can see in the back, some of the people that talk a lot, they're still talking, so. Just a few words. All of us have said goodbyes and so longs to our friends over the years. And tonight I'd like to start on reflecting on a few aspects of Paul's life. Paul is a lifelong resident of Fayetteville. He's one of 8 children. 8 children? How many? Put in your hearing aid.
What?
If he can, he's one of 8 children. He had 3 brothers, all of whom served in the military during World War II. Now, for those of you that don't know this, it might surprise you to know that being town clerk wasn't Paul's only job. Like many boys in Southborough, Paul worked on a farm in his youth. As a matter of fact, his first job, when he was only 10 years old, was working weeding the tomato patch over at Thompson's farm on Route 30 in Framingham for, get this, 10 cents an hour. So for a 9-hour day, you'd get less than $1. Now Paul was like just a few other people in this room. Paul was a proud graduate of Peters High School, which was our high school before Algonquin. And he worked for many years in the milk delivery business and was still delivering milk during his first few terms as town clerk. So Paul's legacy covers many years. I also have a few statistics here. Does anybody remember Calvin Coolidge? Well, believe it or not, Calvin Coolidge was president when Paul was born. Next came Herbert Hoover and 12 other presidents since then. There have been 45 terms of selectmen since Paul got elected as town clerk, beginning with the trio of Swartwood, Dumont, and Lou Bartolini. Many others, like Tom McAuliffe, our longest serving selectman at 24 years, and Donna McDaniel, Southborough's first female selectman, served during Paul's tenure. During all of these terms, you could know that Paul would faithfully be tucked away in the corner office of the town hall. As we all know, so who said sleeping? One of your friends said sleeping. As we all know, one of the keys to Paul's success has been his ability to select an outstanding office staff. Currently, the interim town clerk is Michelle Jenkins, who's assisted by Tammy Hadley. Before Paul was Don McCanowitz, Tara Ward, Gina Mudgase, and I think I saw Connie Maida here today, who was a long-time assistant to the town clerk. All All of these people were trained by Paul, and they all knew about marriage licenses, fishing licenses, the importance of keeping records and counting votes, and the many other functions of town clerk. Paul trained all of these assistants, and each of these assistants was part of the town hall staff and unbelievably loyal to Paul. I'm going to keep this next part a little short, but it could go on. The other night, I was looking at a PBS show on TV, and it was about the Italian Americans. And I thought for a minute as I watched this show about Mario Cuomo and Fiorello LaGuardia and so forth, that Fayetteville was like a microcosm of what the country was during that period of time when Paul was growing up. People grew up, they worked on these menial jobs trying to scrape together some money. The parents worked on the reservoir and building Route 9. And a lot of the boys went off to war and then came back to Southborough to become town clerks, selectmen, and fill other positions. But now, as we prepare to welcome a new town clerk, it's important that we note the honorable service Paul has provided to the town. Paul oversaw many innovations in his office, including improved voting methods and record keeping. Paul, I must tell you, in your life, you have captured what is good about the human race. You have been a positive influence on the lives of all those that you have touched. You have changed lives for the better. Knowing you has been an enriching experience for me, and I've been honored to know you and witness your commitments to our beautiful town. You have given a lot of yourself, and you have set the bar high for unblemished integrity. You will always be remembered as a respected and honorable man. You should be proud of your service to the town and to our country. So as Paul retires, I'm sure that all of you folks share my sentiment when I say, you might be able to fill his job, but you can't replace Paul Berry. And now I'd like to ask Steve Wynot to come forward. He's the commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. In addition to doing this, I'm the commander of the American Legion, and we have some small tokens to present to Paul, who has been a long-time member of both the Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Steve.
Is this what I'm supposed to be giving them?
Yeah, give him that. Well,
Okay, just want to make sure.
one of our gifts is a very generous gift, a gift to have dinner at the La Cantina.
Wait a second, I thought that was mine. Wait a minute, I thought
And
that
I'm
was,
kind of hoping, Paul,
I thought that was mine.
Paul, will you listen? Paul? And I'm kind of hoping when you go, you give me a call.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of great familiar faces out there. I thought I was going to, when I talked to John the other night, he told me that I was going to do this.
You are.
Oh, but you already done it. All right, so I guess you know all the terminology, and this is from the VFW and the Legion, Paul.
Thank you,
All right, and I have a few other things for you.
thank you.
First off, any veteran is close to my heart, so I appreciate Paul's service to this country. He entered when he was 17 or 18, which is kind of familiar because I think I entered when I was 17 as well. He didn't get to go overseas initially during the invasion of Japan or the European theater. However, he did wind up in Korea building roads and doing a bunch of construction over there. So as a 17 or 18-year-old, that's going to be an eye-opening experience, and I'm sure it was. So I want to present Paul this flag. on behalf of the American Legion Post 161 and for the VFW. And then got a little certificate here. This is to certify that the flag was flown on behalf of a true American, an honorable veteran, and just one terrific guy and neighbor to all. The flag presented was flown at the Fayetteville Athletic Association. Today, March 27th, 2015. Unfortunately, I don't have a printer at home, because if I did, I would have put the date and the time on this, but I figure the date's pretty good. Released to the custody and care of Paul Berry, in honor, recognition, and appreciation of your service to our nation, to the United States Army, and to the 45 years of dedication to the town of Southborough, Massachusetts, as town clerk. Thank you for your service. John Wilson, Commander, American Legion, Post 161. Steve Weiner, Commander, VFW Post 3276. Paul, congratulations on your retirement.
Can I put that in? Yeah.
Paul, is it time to go home now?
You don't close the door till 9. The old age won't like you.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce our state representative, Carolyn Dykema. Carolyn.
Good evening. It's great to be here, and I have to say that John Wilson nailed it when he said that Paul Berry is irreplaceable. Paul, you are truly irreplaceable to this town, and I want to thank you for all of your great work. There are certain people in communities that really represent kind of the heart and soul of a community, and I think we all can agree that Paul Berry is one of those people for Southborough. When I was thinking of my comments tonight, I couldn't help but remember the first time that I met Paul, which is when I was originally running for office, and I came into the townhouse, and Paul was one of the people that was sort of on the list, one of those people, you gotta talk to Paul Berry. He knows Southborough. So I went in and talked to Paul, figuring I'd go in and say a quick hello and introduce myself, and Paul sat me down for at least 45 minutes with the big Paul welcome, come on in the office, and explained to me, really gave me such a great sense of what Southborough as a community is and was, and the history, and really was the face of the townhouse for me thereafter. He's the go-to guy, the person who I think truly epitomizes public service for all the right reasons. In it to serve the public, in it because he's got a heart as big as any that I've ever seen, and has his pulse on this community like no one I've ever seen. Always down, I've just been down at the spa, catching up with the guys down in the corner, and I always knew that if I needed some information, Paul was certainly the guy to go to. And as I was talking to Jamie Helen, who's a Southborough resident earlier tonight, he mentioned the very same story when he went into the townhouse for the first time looking to register to vote, and the welcome that he received from Paul at the desk. And I think that just says so much about Southborough, and I think everyone in Southborough has that to thank for Paul for really being such a wonderful, committed, and dedicated face to this community for 46 years, which in itself is a pretty remarkable accomplishment. So I have, on behalf of the Massachusetts legislature and myself and Senator Eldridge, a citation from the Massachusetts legislature to recognize your retirement and wish you well as you enter your next phase.
Thank you, Dan.
So this is an official citation from the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and I will read it to Paul. And it reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Paul J. Berry in recognition of your unwavering commitment to local government and outstanding contributions to the town of Southborough. throughout your 45 years as town clerk. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in your future endeavors, given this 27th day of March 2015, and signed by Carolyn Dykem, the state representative. So Paul, congratulations to you and many more.
Nice. You're safe.
Here, I'll leave this here.
Thank you. Can I go home now?
No, the governor's gonna speak before you go home.
And I'd like to introduce Bill Boland, who's the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Bill?
Thank you. First, on behalf of Paul and his family, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I think you make Kathy and Bruce and Dennis and their significant families very happy by doing this. I think Kathy had a great idea with this cocktail reception style where everyone's not sitting at tables, but people can mill around and talk to each other, because frankly, Paul would get tired after visiting the third table, so this is going to work out well.
You're still in the
You still a Democrat? So I've been asked to read a proclamation from our representative in Congress, the Honorable Catherine Clerk of the 5th Congressional District in Massachusetts, a certificate of special congressional recognition presented to Paul Berry in recognition for 46 years of meritorious service to Southborough as town clerk. Dated March 2015 and signed Catherine M. Clark, Member of Congress.
Thank you.
Did you vote for her? Huh? Fine, you're a representative. Yeah. We tried to get Teddy Kennedy, but you might remember he passed away a couple of years ago. Then again, you might not remember he passed away a couple of years ago.
He remembers everything.
Oh, yeah. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I'll read the proclamation that Paul will be given later. We were afraid he might drop it if we gave it to him tonight. Proclamation, whereas you were born in Fayetteville. I got the Fayetteville put in. They wanted Southborough. But
Did you spell it right?
in 1928, in a log cabin. Oh, wait. I forgot that was Lincoln. He was another Democrat. Was surrounded by 7 other siblings and haven't strayed very far except for a stint in the service when the call of duty took you away from Peters High School and your town at the end of World War II. Your education started, however, just up Oak Hill Road as a pupil of Miss Margaret Neary. She was the one that changed the spelling of your name, wasn't she? After your parents emigrated from Italy, it's no wonder they never left Cherry Street. If you drive by Fayetteville tonight, you might notice that somebody renamed it Berry Street, but unfortunately, I don't think he can reach high enough to take the sign down. Whereas some might say you always belonged at the townhouse, after you watched your grandfather commute to St. Mark's every day. Is that your grandfather or your father? Yeah, I think we got a mistake there, don't we? I won't tell you who did it.
Typical board.
What a full circle. Speaking of full circles, do you remember when you played ball for the Fayetteville Athletic Association? Who knew the organization, a stone's throw from your home, would bring laughter and cheer every evening spent with all your boys? Women may have gotten the vote in 1920, but this was the Fayetteville AA after all. You never set out to be an enigma. You are, however, a homegrown boy who always held this community in your heart. The essence of this was your short commute from High Grade, aka Deerfoot Farms, to your homegrown butcher shop in the early 1970s called Ye Old Meat Shop at the corner of Sears Road and Route 85. You then moved on to the Southborough Dairy with your partner Louis Tambari. Seal Test was the scene of your next chapter, as if that and your 3 children didn't occupy enough of your time. Your culminating venture was to run for the town clerk in the footsteps of Eleanor Burke, the very last time you let a woman precede you. They're getting a kick out of that, aren't they? And for the last 46 years, you have protected the integrity of this town, its records and electoral votes, and most importantly, its citizenry with your very soul. Whereas you have worked faithfully every day since, from like 10 o'clock on. We therefore salute you, Paul J. Berry, Town Clerk Emeritus. Do you know what that means? Dated this 27th day of March, the year of 2015, in the confines of Southborough, Massachusetts, by our hands, the Southborough Board of Selectmen. I was approached last week by someone who was anonymously calling me. He said they'd really like to honor Paul Berry. And they said if we, without letting everyone know, if we could sell 200 tickets to his retirement party, they would make a gift for the same amount of money to a local charitable organization. So this afternoon I received a notification from the Southborough Council on Aging that they received a donation of $8,000, which matches what all you people contributed to come here tonight. And that was in honor of Paul's 46 years of service. And they told me that whoever it was said they wanted to help take care of the people down there who are all much younger than Paul. So I'll only say from a personal note, I've known Paul a long time. It's hard to believe that he's actually retired. You know, his mind may be playing tricks with him a little as the bartenders at the Faiveley put different amounts of straws in his drink during the day. So we can't quite keep track of how many he's had. But when,
No, not talking about me,
Charlie has a hand in that too. But when you talk about Southborough, and there's a lot of names that you mentioned through the history of Southborough, when you think of the older people, the Burnetts, the Fays, some of the newer people like McAuliffe and others, but I can tell you that I have met no one in Southborough who truly represents what it's like to be a resident of Southborough, specifically Fayetteville, somebody who believes in his town, does everything he can to help it, has the greatest sense of humor going, and is really a great guy. I mean, we say it's a sense of humor. We know sometimes it's, you know, he's not the most politically correct person. So we did have proclamations last week, surprisingly, from President Obama, and we had one from former Governor Patrick, but this morning the Secret Service and the state police both showed up at Town Hall when they realized that Paul only voted for them the first time around. And they took their proclamations back. But Paul, thank you for everything you've done for the town. Many more years. You're a great guy. Thank you very much.
Now I can go home?
Pretty soon. As I understand it, there's, yeah, Kathy, there's someone here from Secretary of State Galvin's office. Harry.
My good buddy here. We've known each other a few years.
A few years. Harry Petrucci. I'm also an Italian-American. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I know Secretary of State Galvin wanted to be here tonight because I know he recognizes the great job that Paul has done administering elections through his tenure. And it's a pleasure for me to be here because I've been with the Secretary of State's office for 45 years, and I'm glad there's somebody that's been around longer than I've been around. there is, I guess, some discussion here or some dispute. I have a couple of citations from the secretary, and they both say that Paul was clerk for 47 years. So I hope you'll take the 47 years, Paul, and whether it's 45, 46, 47, 48.
Politician.
And do note that Paul does get 2 citations from Secretary of State Galvin. One citation is for him to take home and put up wherever he desires. The other citation, I have no idea what he's going to do with, but he does get 2 citations. And I'm going to read one of them to Paul. It is with great pride and appreciation that I, William Francis Galvin, Secretary of the Commonwealth, do hereby congratulate Paul J. Berry in recognition of your 47 years of dedicated service as town clerk of Southborough. I also extend my most sincere wishes for future good fortune and continuing success in all endeavors. Given this 27th day of March 2015, and it's signed by William Francis Galvin. Again, it's my pleasure to be here. I couldn't think of a better guy and anyone more deserving of the honors that Paul's getting this evening. And it's been my pleasure to help Paul whenever I could, which was very infrequently, and to be around Paul and know Paul. And again, my congratulations, Paul.
Not yet. Okay. Unless there's someone else, now I'd ask Paul's son Bruce to come forward to present Paul with a gift. Bruce.
Don't you wish you were back in Aruba?
Yeah.
We just spent 6 glorious days in the 87-degree sun, so. It's been nice sitting out there listening to everybody speak so highly of my father, my brother, and my sister. Thank you all. It's very, very nice. The good news is I'm last on the agenda. So very shortly, you'll all be able to get back to doing what you want to do. I'd like to thank my sister Kathy for putting together this soiree. She did a great job, and it's working out very well. To get some picture frames here. As some of you may already know, or not know, we'll tell you here. This is actually his second retirement. Yeah, in 1993, he retired from Kraft Foods. So we weren't sure why or what he was going to do when he retired from Kraft, but it became very evident quickly that he retired from everyday work so that he could be town clerk. And he's done a pretty good job over the years. As John mentioned earlier, my father was born in Fayetteville. He was actually born in the house that he lives in today. He hasn't left. Don't think he's leaving. Everybody's wondering why he's staying. So he was 86 and a half years in this house right now. And out of those 86 and a half years, 46 of them, 45, 47, somewhere in there, he has been town clerk. And that's almost half his life. And that's a pretty good accomplishment. Back in the late 60s, a very good friend of his, Austin Kelly, some of you may remember Austin, he's the one that first suggested to Dad that he run for the office of town clerk because he knew Dad, he knew that he would do a very good job. And he won. And he's won about 15 times since then. And he only had one opponent, serious opponent, once in all of those times that he ran.
So I think that speaks very highly of the respect he received for the job that he did. And I think it's probably pretty safe to say that if you look at the town of Southborough, and maybe even the full state of Massachusetts, there may not be anybody who has held an elected political office for any longer amount of time than 46, give or take, years. And I think that's a pretty good accomplishment on his part. As town clerk, he oversaw 11 presidential elections, from Nixon to Obama. Well, we'll skip Obama. About 10 senatorial elections, about 12 gubernatorial elections, and over 30 regular and special town elections, not to mention every town meeting since 1969. So you add all that up, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of record keeping. It's a lot of things that he did correctly. And if it's not enough, it was also, as was mentioned earlier, he found time to raise 3 kids and make Breyer's best ice cream in the country. And, well, they tore down the building in his honor now. They just can't do the same thing anymore. One thing that, on a serious note, my brother, my sister, and I were fortunate enough to witness a man who very quietly didn't take sides on arguments, disagreements, but influenced the outcomes. He seldom or almost never showed any anger, but you always knew where he stood. You never had the opportunity to argue with him. He let us make our own decisions, and again, silently influence them, hopefully in the correct direction. And he allowed us to learn some very valuable lessons about life, and continued to this day to protect and guide us in the good direction. And speaking for my brother, my sister, and myself, I think it was a job well done. While we were growing up, however, we did hear some stories about his youth, and yes, he was a very active member of the Fayetteville Athletic Association. And as was mentioned, he is still a member today, frequently visiting. But there's not too much athletics going on down there anymore. And I think his stick might attest to it's more like 12-ounce curls. That's about it. It was mentioned that as a boy he worked in a farm for 10 cents a day. That was an hour? 10 cents an hour. He also did something that just, even now, I just find amazing. He raised pheasants, the birds, pheasants. And he raised them, from my understanding, to sell, or to eat, or to do both, to make $1 for the family, or to put pocket change in his own pocket. And that just always amazed me. How do you raise pheasant? I go out and shoot them. I don't raise them. And there's one other story, and there's a few people here who might appreciate this. When he was a young man, and I don't even know, I'm going to say that probably the late 30s, the Fayetteville used to celebrate the 4th of July with a bonfire. And the bonfire used to be down near the athletic field, actually across the street from the athletic field on Central Street. And he and a friend of his that he sort of grew up with, George Boothby, were in charge of one particular year, building the woodpile so that the bonfire that they would have on the 4th of July would be this big, spectacular flame. And, back then, it wasn't unusual to put gasoline or kerosene, an accelerant of some type, onto these piles of wood. Well, as I understand the story at least, George got a little bit excited about the 4th of July that evening and lit the fire. And my father was still on top. And his exit off the pile was miraculous. And truth be told, there were more fireworks that night, I think, than they had for the 4th of July party. So, while Dad is great and he does his job very well, I guess he's not all that perfect. But I do know that he is absolutely a great influence on us, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, his nieces and his nephews. He leads them by example. And I think that's all he has to do. It's nice to see the town of Southborough and the state of Massachusetts recognize his accomplishments. I think that the recognition is well deserved and heartily earned. So, I'm also, this part is a little awkward because I've never done this before, but my father's a technophobic. He doesn't really like technology all that much. I know that's a surprise. But he did learn while he was town clerk how to do emails and how to occasionally get on the internet and whatever, go places that he's never been before. Right? Some of which may not have been there, I don't know. But upon leaving the town hall, he lost his ability to do email, and that was a physical loss of the machine as opposed to the thought frame loss. So, on behalf of all of us, we are presenting to you a laptop computer. So that he can get back in touch with the real world now. Now, we don't know what his email address is going to be, but we'll try to make it as public as possible so that everybody can send their congratulations to him. That's the good news. The bad news is we have to get you internet, and that costs money. Life's a bitch.
You'll be able to talk to me.
Yeah. But again, I want to thank all of you for coming this evening. It's going to be a great evening still yet to happen. And Dad, I want to thank you for your positive influence. Thank you for being there when we needed you. And to everyone here this evening, as Red Skelton used to say in his sign-off, God bless. Thank you.
What do you want me to say, Greg?
Whatever you want. So Paul is among a lot of friends tonight, and he has a few words to say. Just a few. You don't have to say much. Don't get rolling. This is quick.
The first thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you very much. If I had known that this was going on, I wouldn't be here. And my 6 good town clerks from Mashpee, Harwich, Milton, and what's that name up in Old Rockport? Framingham and Sterling. We went out for dinner tonight, and they were great, but they never opened their mouths about this. Because if they did, I wouldn't be here. And they owe me. They owe me big time. Big time. But again, I want to thank everyone. I've enjoyed the 46 years that I spent as town clerk. I met a lot of great people, and I have met a lot of great elected people. Some were not that good, but most of them were great people. They were dedicated people. I got my former assistant town clerk, who is now acting town clerk, Michelle. Michelle, would you stand up, please? She owes a great we owe her a great thank you for putting up with me, I'll tell you. And she has been great, and she's great for the town, and she will be great until the elections, I'm sure. And I miss her, and I miss all the. I heard that Connie Mater was here, my former assistant, who for 25 years. Connie. There she is. Connie put up with me for 25 years. Anyone who can do that is an angel, believe me. She's really, really, I haven't seen her for a while, but she was great. I had a lot of good people, and I really, really appreciate everyone who worked in the town clerk's office, and I appreciate anyone who had anything to do with the town clerk's office. And I really appreciate the people from Southborough. I still like them. We have three characters here who are great people, and I appreciate everything they've done for me. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. That concludes the program. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Paul, you can go home.
Bye now. Bye now.
Bye now.